Help me welcome our guest speaker for today. Reverend Amanda Ganley is a postmodern spiritual but not religious minister who is ordained in the New Thought tradition. Her aim is to take these teachings outside of church walls and traditional communities to empower folk everywhere with powerful, practical tools for living deeper, more inspired, wholehearted experiences of life. She is focused on creating inclusive, body positive spiritual spaces beyond normative definitions. Most recently, Amanda's ministry has been focused on relationship diversity and relationship as spiritual practice, which she shares on the Poly Priestess podcast. As a polyamorous woman of color who is differently abled, much of Amanda's work is focused on embracing our paths as individuals while consciously navigating body politics and equity in all the spaces where we discuss love, sexuality, and spirituality. Amanda has shared her message of love in action as a public speaker for more than 5 years. Originally from New Mexico, Amanda currently resides in Los Angeles and is looking forward to watching her ministry blossom amid the changing times.
Good morning, everyone. Cool. My name is Reverend Amanda Ganley. I have been in ministry for the last 7 years, and most recently, my ministry has been focused on love and relationship as spiritual practice. I've been doing a podcast on that for the last year or so. You can find out more information about me. I'm sure that they will post that on here at some point or on the YouTube, or you can send me an email and I'd be happy to check in with you about my practice of love and relationship and talking about all of the ways in which we connect with one another. And not so coincidentally, I believe that that's why when I walk into communities, Spirit has me talking about community and all of the ways that we connect with one another and the value that's present in that. Because that's just what I love to geek out about. I love to geek out about all of the ways that we connect and how we meet Spirit in those connections. And spiritual community has been one of those places for me where I've been really, my life has been transformed, as I'm sure many lives of the people who've been on this call have been transformed by this experience of community and this experience of spiritual community where we do this work together and all of the beauty that's present in that. And there's sometimes just not even words for the beauty that's present in this way that we share experience, right? Because the information that we share might not be novel. We might be hearing this in pop songs and out in the world all over the place. We're talking about how we love one another and how we build community. But when we come together and we share these experiences of community, we're creating something special. Every heart and every mind, every person that is willing to be present to these conversations allows us to create something beautiful. And that's what we do in spiritual community. So I was really excited to have this opportunity to talk about how we do spiritual community now, because this experience looks really different. I mean, you guys are pros now. Thank you, everyone who is behind the scenes with all the bells and whistles making this happen. But we are doing this in a much different way than we had been doing this 8 months ago. The last time I spoke with a community, I was on a stage, right, and had lights and got to hug people afterwards. And now we know that the world is shifting. The way that we do spiritual community has shifted. The way that our daily lives look has shifted. And the way that we are connecting with human beings and staying connected with those who mean so much to us looks much different than it did before. And I'm so loving this opportunity to check in with all of the ways that we are doing this in new ways, that we are innovating the way that we love, innovating the ways that we connect, innovating the ways that we do community and shared space with one another. So I'm going to keep peeking at my notes and try not to do that too much. So I just feel so strongly in my bones, and because of my own experience in spiritual community, that when we connect with others who are doing this work at the same time, we're building something unique. and something that that doesn't happen in any other way. And anywhere that we're willing to engage in the shared experience, we're building something, we're creating something. So we don't get to do that in live crowds anymore, right? I love concerts. My husband loves to go to baseball games. And what we love about those situations is that shared experience with the crowd, with the energy, right? What I love about being on stages is getting to look in everyone's eyes and see that. See Spirit made manifest in the lives and the bodies and the joy of everyone that I get to connect with. And there's so much beauty in that. And now we get to find new ways of doing that. I get to see your faces, those of you who are sharing your faces on screen, and connect with that spirit in the same way. And what I love also about community is that it's not just an opportunity for us to share experience and be of like mind, but it's an opportunity for us to bring in all of the places where we're not exactly the same, where we're not exactly of like mind, and still create something beautiful. Because community is also this opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for learning. It's an opportunity to be on our best behavior or our worst behavior and still be a part of something, and all of the things in between our best and our worst behavior. But we're still a part of something so much bigger than ourselves. And we are building and we are contributing to that. So Zora Neale Hurston has this beautiful quote where she says, "Love is like the sea. It's a moving thing. But still in all, it takes its shape from the shore it meets, and it's different with every shore." We can share our hearts, we can share our minds, we can share our philosophy, and all of that meets at every different shore. And that love, community, which is love in action, gets to become something and be born something new with every person that it meets. And now that we're innovating that, now that we're doing that in different ways, this community and this connection gets to be something new. And I'm not saying that I love to be excited about things and I love to talk about how positive things are, but I also really love to have, no bullshit, you guys, love to have a conversation about this is not always pretty. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and, oh, we get to innovate. Yes, I get to be at church in my living room in my pajamas. How exciting. We talk about change and transformation as opportunity, but these changes and these opportunities come with so many other things. And one of those things that sticks in my mind is grief, right? Because for us, we can walk into a situation and we see the beginnings and the endings. So I'm just going to ask you to take a deep breath with me right now. Close your eyes and call into your mind's eye the last great beginning, or the last great ending that you were privileged to be a part of. Breathe into that. It was a privilege. Whether it was a beginning, whether it was an ending, those two things happen really close to one another. And we often just feel discomfort in that because we feel that those things are final, right? This new beginning is the next big thing. This ending is so final. We have closed the door, all the windows are shut, we have boarded everything up. It's an ending, and it all feels so final. But what we don't pay attention to very often, at least I know I don't, is all of the things that have happened from that ending to the next beginning. From that beginning into the ending, there is so much in between, and there is so much depth of experience. And there is so much grief that happens in those experiences. Because what we know when we look at our relationships, we know that none of that is static. Nothing stays the same forever. And it's really common for us to sort of be forlorn for that moment 10 minutes ago that was amazing, right? Has anyone else had that experience? I'm just going to pretend y'all are raising your hands, where we have looked at that person that we were yesterday and said that person was a rock star. I really liked that person over there. I want to stay being that person, and over here feels really awkward and uncomfortable. And there's this experience of grief that happens in there that we get to walk around with all the time. That's always informing us, that's always with us, that is always with us to be loved and transformed into all of the things that are in between, into all those moments where we get to catch glimpses of our hope and whatever is next. And there's so much beauty in that grief. Ernest Holmes says, too often we are afraid of letting go of the little good we think we hold in our hand, lest we lose it, not realizing that only as we release this good can we expect its increase. And we do that, right? We hold on to these things so tightly because they feel so good. And we know that when we let go, it's going to turn into something else. Like our experience of community has shifted into something else. To the way that I get to connect with hearts and minds in a crowd of people, not being in a shared space where I'm going to be smothered with hugs later, but a different sort of shared space where I can be smothered with cyber hugs instead, or emails, or just a wave on the screen. And that is still a beautiful way of doing community. And there still gets to be space in that for me to remember what all of those hugs were and to honor my grief about missing them. And I feel like what's really unique about this moment in history is that we are all doing that together. So often we walk into community spaces and we don't know what the person next to us is holding. We can hold their hand, we can be there with them, we can sing the songs, but we don't know what they've walked in with. But when we connect with so many people now, we are having the opportunity to be in this shared space of grief because so many of us have lost the same thing. And so much of our lives are transforming in this way that makes us wonder what was 8 months ago? What was the world like when I wasn't saying things like socially distancing and worrying about whether or not I'm 6 feet behind the person in line at the grocery store and being conscientious about wearing my mask, not just because I'm concerned for me, but because I am so concerned for the people in the world around me that I love? I don't remember it. And I know that I grieve it. And I know that so many of us are walking around with the shared experience of this grief. And we're building community in that shared experience. And I just can't help but thinking how beautiful that is, right? Because we are building community. We walk around in our grief. So many of us feel like that's a solitude, right? That we are alone in our grief experience, but not right now. Right now, we are out in the world and we're all sort of sharing this space and we're clunking around, and it might not feel so pretty or look so nice, but it's there. And we're still building something. We're still coming together. There's a poet that I love by the name of Andrea Gibson, and she has this poem called, I don't remember what it's called. It's from her book called Pole Dancing in the Dark. And this is the stanza. She says, "When your heart is broken, you plant seeds in the cracks and you pray for rain. And you teach your sons and daughters there are sharks in the water, but the only way to survive is to breathe deep and dive." The only way to survive is to breathe deep and dive. And what a beautiful opportunity each one of us has right now to breathe deep and dive together. And we might not be able to do that in the same rooms. We might not be able to do that hugging and laughing and sharing in the ways that we normally did, but we're still getting to do that. And we're getting to honor one another's grief and joy and lives and bear witness to things that we didn't imagine we would be bearing witness to in our lifetimes. And there's something just so beautiful in this experience. So it's not sunshine and roses. It's not all perfection and butterflies, but it is all of that gooey stuff that happens with the butterflies when they're becoming butterflies. We get to do that together. And I can't help but be excited about it. I'm just one of those people who's endlessly excited. Because this opportunity brings us so much that we didn't have before. Because when we were sitting there 8 months ago, not even understanding what social distance meant or what the profound impact of being 6 feet apart from strangers and people who we see every week would be, we didn't realize that there would be so many opportunities to be doing this in a new way. And to be meeting one another in ways with open hearts, with broken hearts, in our sadness, in our joy, and in everything in between. Because there's so much opportunity now to become something that we were not before. Rilke says, I am circling around God, around the ancient tower, and I have been circling for 1,000 years. And I still don't know if I am a falcon or a storm or a great song. And now we have the opportunity to view whether or not we are a storm or a great song in a whole new world. And it might not feel as warm and fuzzy as those hugs did. It might not wake us up with as much excitement on Sunday morning to be the one who is like, I get to pray and lead spiritual practice today, and I get to read, and I get to be the preacher lady, but I still get to be the preacher lady. I get to find new ways to be the preacher lady and be excited and share all of the love that's in my heart with the world without necessarily embracing it full on. And that provides so much more. It provides a new opportunity for me to check in with my spiritual practice in new ways, and it provides an opportunity for me to be present with Spirit in ways that I didn't know I was going to be allowed to be present with. And I don't know that we can, even in this moment, as I take a deep breath into it, we're never going to be able in this moment to understand the impact. And maybe another 8 months from now, we'll be able to look back and view the impact of holding space and being present in community in new and inventive ways. And then that brings us to this conversation that we have been having over the last few months about how do we do that and be truly inclusive? How do we truly honor the diversity? How do we truly honor all of the ways and all of the shores that this ocean of love meets us? Because I guarantee that every heart that is sitting here, everyone who participates in this conversation, brings something different to this conversation about love and being present and feeling a sense of belonging and inclusion where they go. And we all have stories to tell, right? We all have stories to tell about what it feels like to be included somewhere in that moment. And for me, that really did happen in spiritual community. To be standing on stage and to be, to have a standing ovation or to have a hug, to be out of town for a weekend and just have a dear friend greet me by saying, welcome home. Welcome home. And now we all have this opportunity to create a new space of welcome home. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone else. But as we all know, when we're praying for our highest and best good, when we are praying for the highest and best good for our beloveds and for the people who are near and dear to us, for our neighbors, for those hands that we are holding, we know that that prayer is first for ourselves. We understand that all of the good and the beauty and the love that we wish for anyone to experience in the world is a good and a beauty and a love that we must deeply know within ourselves first. Deeply know it. So I'm going to ask you to take another deep breath with me right now. To deeply know for yourself that you are seen, that you belong, that whatever your experience of life and spirit has been for the last half hour, the last week, the last 8 months, it is beautiful, it is perfect, it is valid, and nothing has gone wrong. And as we know this, that all is well, that nothing has gone wrong, we know that we belong here, right here in this moment. We have been brought here by divine appointment. Welcome home. So as we breathe into that welcome home, right, we understand that belonging is experienced in these places where we are truly safe. And when we want to create these spaces that are truly safe for anyone around us, we first will know that truth for ourselves. We first will know that my path, that your path, that every path that has led us right here to this divine intersection, to this moment that we are sharing together, is welcome home. That is where we belong. And as we deepen into that experience, we will create that experience for all of life around us. And that doesn't also look like rainbows and perfection, because now that I know that I belong, Now that each one of us knows that this is where we're supposed to be, that we are safe in our bodies and our hearts and our minds and our souls, and now that I know that truth for me, I know it for you, we have to understand all of the places that people are experiencing a lack of safety in the world is because we are bringing that lack of safety. Every moment that I am willing to say that I am not going to confront my own privilege, every moment that I am willing to say that I am not safe, that the world is scary around me, then I am continuing to create that. And we know that, right? We know that that the conditions around us do not define us, but that we define those conditions by what's inside of us. And all of the ways that we are walking around feeling unsafe in our lives, our hearts, our minds, bodies, and souls, we create that unsafety around us. And not just for ourselves, but for other folks. And then when we are willing to do the deep healing work of understanding all the ways in which we have agreed with the world to participate in those conditions where we don't belong, where we don't feel worthy, where we're not safe, we're agreeing to do the work of spirit, not just to create safety for ourselves, but for everyone in the world. And that's why you hear Reverend Dr. Raymond talking about the ways in which all of the spices honor the stew, the potato salad, whatever, right? And each person who is welcome in the room and embraced, and we honor that diversity, we are creating a more delightful, delicious stew. We are creating a more beautiful tapestry. And the way that we do that is by doing this healing work. By being willing to hold space for one another when we're in this grief that we're sharing. By being willing to hold space for ourselves when we're in this grief. When we address our privilege, when we understand our shame, we sit with our hurting not only until it no longer hurts, but it stops leading us to inflict damage on others. And that's what the importance of this healing work is. That's what the importance of staying open and curious and loving towards the world is. And we know what that experience is, right? We know that when we are afraid of something, when we are uncomfortable about it, we have shut our minds off and we are no longer asking questions. We are no longer curious about it. But when we are in love with something, we want to know all the things, right? Like when we fall in love with someone, we will stay up until the wee hours of the morning getting to know every single thing about them. And if we can bring that energy to anywhere where we're experiencing a difference, to I don't know this thing about you, but I'm willing to find out. I'm willing to stay so open and curious because I am so in love with this experience of our connection. I am so in love with life. I am so in love with spirit as it is made manifest through you that I want to know all the things. And I want to understand your point of view. And I'm going to keep my heart wide open to this understanding because I am so in love with you that I can't help but being curious about you. I can't help but being curious about me. And if I have contributed to your pain in some way, then I want to be curious about that. And I want to ask all of the questions and stay up until the wee hours of the morning, yet again, asking all of the questions, keeping my heart and mind open and curious and loving. So that's my pat answer usually when someone asks me, how do I build inclusive space? Well, are you curious? Are you asking questions? Are you just going to be willing to sit back and listen? And not just listen with your ears, but with your heart and with that divine inner knowing that knows that you and I are one. Because you and I are one. So your pain is my pain. And all of the places where I don't understand you, let me ask all of the questions. Let me hear everything. Let us learn the answers together so that we can grow, so that we can create a space of belonging. And that's what we do. When it's just you and me, when we're falling in love with each other, we ask all the questions because I want to know. Your love, your hurt, your joy is mine. And when we do that with anyone in community, whether it's online, whether it's in person trading hugs, we are building community, an inclusive, loving, diverse, beautiful community. So I just want to say thank you one more time to all of you for allowing me to be part of your inclusive and diverse and beautiful community and sharing this beautiful Sunday morning with you. And my little quirk is that I share a poem at the end of my talk, so I'm going to do that, and then I will just say a quick affirmation at the end. So this poem, and I'm just going to let you know that most of the quotes I did today were folks from queer community or people of color. And the poet that I am sharing with you today is Gwendolyn Brooks. This is called An Aspect of Love Alive in the Ice and Fire. In a package of minutes, there is this we. How beautiful. Merry foreigners in our morning, we laugh, we touch each other. We are responsible props and posts. A physical light is in the room. Because the world is at the window, we cannot wonder very long. You rise. Although genial, you're in yourself again. I observe your direct and respectable stride. You are direct and self-accepting as a lion in African velvet. You are level, lean, remote. There is a moment in camaraderie when interruption is not to be understood. I cannot bear an interruption. This is the shining joy, the time of not to end. On the street, we smile. We go in different directions, down the imperturbable street. I'm just going to ask you to take a deep breath with me into that smile, into that connection, into that beauty, knowing that spirit lies in that connection, that it lies in that light, in that smile, and in that beauty, and that there is only one. There is only one light, there is only one perfect love, there is only one grace. And that grace is each and every one of us present here. It is all of life as it surrounds us, as it unfolds in its perfection. The Spirit is present in 6 feet apart and face masks, in online service, and in all of the change, the transformation, the grief, the joy, and the connection. We know that God lives there, that love lives there, and that there is no place where this spirit and this joy does not exist. So I honor this place in each one of our hearts, that open-hearted space at the center of our being that is softened in this space of community. I honor it. I call it good. I call it blessed. And I know that for each one of us, all is well, that we belong, that we experience welcome home today and every day. And I say thank you. I say thank you for the opportunity to stay connected, to be in community, to build from this new space, to be in this place of opportunity and limitless possibility. And I let it go. I let it be. And so it is. Namaste, dear hearts.